Welcome to an episode of Shapes of Resilience at the Firs in Hanbury. We're on day 3 of the shift retreat. I'm joined by Callum Walker. Callum is someone I've connected with at this retreat on day 1, minute 1. I looked across and I thought, I'm going to get on with this guy and his lovely partner, Alice, who sat watching us eating a peach, which I'm a bit jealous of because the peach looks good. But I can't believe we're on day 3 already. It only seems like 2 minutes ago I was on the M5, heading up to this retreat, which is the same location I attended last year as a guest. And only 12 months ago, I was sat here, a very different version of myself, realising the changes I needed to make and how challenging that was going to be. But to be sat here now, the other side of that, connecting with the right people. There's no such thing as a coincidence. So we were always meant to meet. I've learned so much from this guy. I thought I knew a few things about nutrition, which I probably do, but probably the wrong things. Because I've gone down the route of believing, like we all do, or many of us do, that the way our bodies have always operated from when we've been young and we've been programmed and we've conformed and only known that way, that is the way that we should continue to endeavour our learnings and our practices. And I feel like I've got to the capacity of being the best version of myself in the operating model that I live within and eat within. And I'm able to now, I'm at this crossroads of learning actually that there's this other way, which is going to take me even further down the path I'm already heading. So thanks for your time.
Nice. Yeah, just I don't really know what to say there really, because your words are so beautiful. And it's really interesting because me and my partner, when we were on the way here, I think just an intention of being here was just all about connection and meeting people. And again, it was just as soon as I met you, I was like, same with you, I was like, I'm gonna like this guy. And yeah, it's just been wonderful. And again, I almost kind of come back to, like, with yourself, your own story is so inspiring and really summarizes the whole purpose of this event of, you know, going through the levels, but going through the levels of yourself on your own personal journey based on what you want to achieve and who you want to become. And you've done that, and that has passed an incredible amount of inspiration onto myself, and also just seeing everyone else, you know, also, completely buy into your story and feel lifted by that. It's incredibly inspiring based on action. And it's interesting, just before, we started recording this, we were around Zach in the ice bath and just talking about there's so many people who, they're just all words, whereas you're pure action. Like, you've been somewhere you didn't want to be and you've done something about it, and that is sorely missing in the world. And you're a credit to yourself, mate. So thank you.
Thank you, mate. That has landed. Because it's the words that I need to say to myself, but I don't, because I spend most of my time working out what can I do next to unlock the next version of me. But I do feel that gratitude, and it's the hardest thing with being vulnerable is exposing yourself to new surroundings that you're capable of doing, but there's also a massive amount of doubt, which I struggle with. And it's on the way up here, the voices in my head telling me, who the hell are you to go to an event with someone like Ollie Ollerton and meet other highly intelligent practitioners that know their stuff. And I keep getting to this point where it's, you've said you're going to do it, now do it. Mm-hmm. Which my main aim is to somehow inspire and help others to unlock the same skills within them, because we've all got the potential, but it's not easy.
But it's interesting because, we've spoken a lot about an identity shift, stepping into the next level version of yourself. And I think being vulnerable with my own journey, I think that the journey and the place that I've come to has actually been more of a realization and a self-realization. And I think that there comes a point within your self-growth journey where it's actually not just viewing it through where you're missing and what you're lacking, but actually almost appreciating what you've done and who you are. And that is actually the next level actually is for you, of that realization that, you said in your beautiful breathwork practice yesterday, which was the thing that came ringing through my head the whole time, which is I am enough. And we can definitely think that going through the gears and going into the next level version of ourselves requires us to be someone that we're not. But actually, and I'm only speaking from my experience, and I'm sure that this may change, and I know that throughout my life that I will have to step up and elevate, but I know for myself that it's very much a place of actually going like, no, you have done the work, and I am enough, and I am as good as I have thought that I believe that I am, and that's what that next level is. But I think I come back to, the doubts and the fears and the worries. Like, I think the beauty that I really kind of have connected from you is that yours is solely just a journey of courage. And if you almost look at, like, I've always found there is a difference between arrogance and confidence. And arrogance is, I'm this good based on no evidence. Whereas confidence is, I am this good because I have the evidence to back it up. And again, if I come back to that courage side of things and inspiring people, the way that you inspire people is through having the courage to go, okay, even though when I'm driving down, like up here on the M5, I've got that fear, I've got that doubt, I've got that worry, but I'm going to take action anyway, and I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to take the risk of exposing myself and potentially failing. That's what's the inspiration, because anyone can give an inspiring talk and have words, but what moves people is action. And I look at with yourself like that is the journey that you've showcased. And if I almost kind of look at what is it that really allows you to actually have that real confidence in yourself, it's not what you know, it's what you've done. And those experiences, but you can only get that confidence from actually doing those things, and those things require you to be shit scared and to feel like an imposter, but move forward anyway. And I always remember, so one of my favorite films is Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey. But there's a sequel, which is Evan Almighty, and the film wasn't really that great, but there was an amazing scene in there where Morgan Freeman, who plays God, he's talking to Evan's wife, and he goes, "You pray for courage. Do you think God gives you courage or situations to be courageous in?" And I come back to the definition of courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear; it's the presence of fear. And like, think about the cold water therapy that we've been doing. Yeah, I've been doing cold water for years, and every single time before I step in, that little voice in my head like tells me like, "Oh, don't go in there," and I'm scared, but I take that action anyway. And I think that you are an absolute walking embodiment of that, and I picked up on that, and that's what real inspiration is, because there's enough people who talk the talk, but there's not enough people who legitimately walk the walk.
Thank you, brother.
Pleasure, mate.
It means the world to me. But we are going to spin this around, because I want to know about you. So you said that in the breathwork session, I said, I'm worthy, that landed. So take me back to a previous version of Callum that felt that he wasn't worthy.
Yeah, I think, again, like, everything always goes back to school with so many people. It's really funny, actually, because I was talking about this last night at dinner. If you look at my school report, it was Callum talks too much. And I was like, okay, right, my career is now all about talking and speaking, which is really cool.
You're very good at it.
I really appreciate that. It's because I did a lot of it at school. But yeah, like, I think that, especially when I was at school, I had a bit of a strange one, really, because I went to 4 different schools in 5 years. We traveled around a lot, and there was this constant having to try and fit in to places with already established relationships. Yeah. And that was very, very difficult to really kind of like figure out who I was. And that really kind of meant that I had to like constantly invent this persona to kind of fit in. And I kind of think back to, like, especially from an academic point of view, I really was not good at school. And I know that gets thrown around a lot, but like, I really wasn't. And again, my academic reports were always, Callum can't concentrate. He's not very good at, at school. And that was a real thing that I genuinely believed. And, I went to my final school I went to a school where there were some incredibly intelligent people. It was a very high-end school. And, the majority of people there went to Oxford, Cambridge, or a top 5 university. And I just didn't fit in with that mold at all, to the point that I genuinely did believe that I was stupid, because I was the stupid kid amongst them within the academic system. But I think it only really started to really kind of shift for me when I've got ADHD, and I never really kind of understood it. But when I really went about understanding ADHD, there's a really interesting part of it that most people think someone with ADHD can't concentrate, they can't focus, they're scatty, they're messy. But if something is interesting to them, they have an incredible ability for the brain to actually retain that information. And it was really interesting. I really wasn't very good at school at all. But the one thing that I was good at was PE. And that was because the only thing I was really interested in was playing sport. The only thing that I ever knew that I wanted to do was just play. And it was really interesting. I went and did my A-level in PE, and it was the only one that I actually got a good grade in. But that was because I was showing up to lessons that I was actively interested in, where I'm going like, hold on, like, you know, when they're going through anatomy and physiology and nutrition and biomechanics and all these things, I was like, I'm literally just attending lessons to learn how I can actually just get better and play sport better. And that like really kind of lit a fire within me, because that then caused me to go like, right, you know, I do want to go to uni, and I'm going to make sure that I work really hard at this. And I went and did a sports science degree, and then I went and did a master's degree in nutrition. But that thing, I genuinely blame my ADHD for that.
Wow.
Because like I gave me the obsessive nature to want to acquire as much information on this topic that I'm interested in. And I think off the back of that, that really lit a fire within me to want to go down this route. And again, like I base it all on my own journey of just wanting to play sport, wanting to be fitter, healthier. And then I think as well, like why I do feel so passionate from a nutritional point of view was, truthfully, it was the thing that made me realize I wasn't stupid. You know, I got bullied for being thick, whether that was from people at school, whether that was from my teachers. You know, I got ostracized and, you know, and massively like, you know, kind of like segregated and set apart when I was at school, to the point that I believed it. But for some reason, this thing came easy to me. And this thing of acquiring information about nutrition came easy to me.
Yeah.
And that's very sacred to me, because it's my proof that whatever external voices and narratives have said, the evidence I actually have is not correct. That is not correct. The evidence I have is that I'm not stupid. I do have the ability to acquire information. And that has always been something that's helped me. I think as well, another thing that when I almost kind of look at the nutritional side of things, you know, like I've only ever known running a business. I finished my master's degree and then immediately went and set up my business at 22. Everyone else was doing what everyone else was doing. Like they all had jobs, they had a stable income, they were meeting new friends, new experiences. And I was sat at home writing recipes at 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to figure this thing out. So I felt very lonely and isolated. And again, that came with its challenges and its difficulties, because I felt very alone. Everyone else was going on a different path. But then also in terms of the nutrition information that I was acquiring, that was very different. It was very different from the standard dogma. And again, that made me feel very isolated. And so I think a theme that I've experienced has always been that isolation, that not fitting in. And I think that's why I feel so blessed being in places like here, because you know, I'm with my people, and I'm with my people who are on the same wavelength in terms of I'm not just going to accept society's narrative that this is how we need to think, to operate, to eat, to connect. And again, that's been really sacred for me. And I think that when I step into an environment like this, it's really lovely, because there's so many, everyone here that I've met has a faith. You know, everyone has a different kind of labeling of that faith, whether it's spirituality, whether it's a standard religion or whatever. But everyone has that belief that there's something outside, like guiding us. And it's beautiful being in a safe space around other people where I can have those conversations where everyone else gets it. But I also believe for myself that, and it's been in terms of, you know, going through your beautiful breathwork session, I think the thing that I've really got has really been that I wouldn't be here if I wasn't supposed to be here, and I am capable. And I believe that this is an opportunity for me. That doubt, like, yeah, okay, there might be that doubt, but I wouldn't be here if I wasn't supposed to be here. And I think that's been the lesson I've learned.
I've got so many different ways I'm thinking about going with this.
Sorry, mate.
But I'm going to go to, so I can really resonate with the staying up till midnight trying to work this thing out. And I think that's why it's clicked in my head, that why I value our connection so much and everything that you've delivered in your sessions. And on the first night when I heard you speak, was that I feel like you've delivered and given me the information that I was so passionately trying to learn myself without the ability to find the right places to access it and process it myself. For example, I think 2021 to 2022, I was up until midnight on my laptop creating meal plans based on what I knew. But this was before ChatGPT, really, and I was doing everything manually. And I got to the end of the year, having spent several hundred hours on it, and I never launched it because I felt like I was missing something. And everything that you speak about and present so beautifully for me, landed in a way where I was able to understand it clearly for the first time. And the other thing I've done this weekend as well is I've finally stopped making the excuses and I've fasted. Yeah, I fasted properly from whenever we had our evening meal on day 1 and day 2, which I think was around 6 o'clock. And then I fasted all the way through till 1 o'clock, which I don't do.
Have you found that?
I found it was incredible. And the other thing, which I've already fed back to you, is that I don't believe that I would have delivered the breathwork session in the way that I did, with the clear messages. I was getting the signals with so much purity due to not having my digestive system operating at the time when I needed it to be all about giving everything that's inside me. And I feel like that is such a big win for me this weekend. I've also suffered for years with irritable bowel syndrome, digestive issues, believing that it was down to food intolerances, understanding that it's clearly related to stress and trauma that I've been exposed to for 20 years in the police, but also not really understanding how to combat it. But the fasting has meant that this is working the best it's ever worked in 2 days.
See, I think the thing I'm going to kind of press on to that is, I think, look at everything we've done this weekend, yeah? Like, it is absolutely in harmony with nature, everything. And I think that, like, it's really interesting because it's a real bizarre concept as human beings. For some reason, we feel that we're separate from nature, as opposed to actually, like, no, we are. Like, I'm made of the same stuff as the tree. Like, you know, like the carbon in me is the same as that. Let's just put together in a different way. And I look at, like, from a fasting point of view, you think about, we're programmed to operate that way. I'm programmed to go through periods of time without eating. Like, that's how it's supposed to be. And if you look at everything we've done, from the types of food that we've been eating, the timing in which we've been eating, the movement that we've been doing, the breathing that we've been doing, the sounds that we've been exposing ourselves to, the actual setting, this place is unbelievable. Like, and I think, but the biggest thing is that the one thing that we're all lacking is the social connection. You know, Ollie spoke earlier about the tribal village. This whole weekend is literally operated as a tribal village, and there's no coincidence that everyone is on a healthy playing field. So for yourself, that you're delivering what your nature has put you together to do. Like, you know, you're there, you have a skill set, you have an amazing way of connecting with everyone. As I kind of mentioned to you, I've done some beautiful breathwork sessions before, but that was the most beautiful practice that I'd done. And, you know, and that's a huge credit to yourself. But I also don't think it's a coincidence that you delivered it in such a way where you felt that it was, you know, it was the peak of what you can do. Yeah. But that, personally, I believe, is because you've been operating in harmony with nature. And off the back of that, your nature then comes through naturally. So I almost kind of look at, like, you know, what I really kind of pressed on with my own talk, and personally how I believe health and fitness really needs to be for us. It's actually just returning to our own nature and operating as the way in which nature operates. And I look at why so many people are both sick within the body, the mind, the soul, is because we've got away from our natural operating systems. And the more that we can just simplify, if you think about everything we've done, even exposing ourselves to cold water, you know, hot water only came along, 100 years ago. You know, you think about doing that, doing the breath, like moving. It's no coincidence we all feel perfectly fine.
Sat here now with our feet on the earth.
I haven't worn shoes in 3 days.
No, but when your words landed then, I felt electricity run down my spine.
Amazing.
Yeah. Just those words, because I read those words in a book when I was on holiday 2 months ago. When you surround yourself within nature, you become your deepest nature.
I love that.
And then you're passing your nature on to others in nature, and then it's the ripple effect. And it's the language as well. It's the language you use with absolute clarity. So you're not landing it in a way where you're inviting someone to question it. Because, as I've said to people in the conversation I had last night, that look around, because nature doesn't lie. So there is no deceit or manipulation. It will give you your truth every single time if you allow it and you open and invite it in.
Completely agree with that. And I feel that, like, with my own experience of the personal challenges I've experienced and gone through, operating in a naturalistic way has been the way that's happened. whether that's been exercise. Like, I found running was an amazing way for me, but it wasn't just running on a road surrounded by cars. It was trail running, like just getting lost in some hills, running in the mud. Like, my answers came to me there. Like, again, whether it was cold water, like that has had the most profound impact on my life. My answers came to me there, and all of my lessons have come from nature. All of my lessons have come from, going and doing those sorts of activities. And I think that it's interesting. Me and Laura were talking about this at the start, like around the wellness industry. I feel like it's been really poisoned and tainted. And I'm not an anti-capitalist individual. I think that, like, of life, you have to make life what you make of it. Like, I think, that we have to go and graft, get yourself out there, make something happen. And I believe in capitalism from that point. But I feel that the wellness industry has been so tainted and tarnished from a financial point of view. Even something as simple as, we were really fortunate to have Georgia, deliver an amazing sound healing. And when she spoke about how easy it is for people to become a sound healing practitioner, just get started with some bowls made from China, from China, and, them not being the real thing, that, like, again, it's tainting and tarnishing the actual proper practice. And it was really interesting. I actually, when we were driving here, I asked my partner, Alice, I was like, would you ever deliver a yoga session? And she said, I would never deliver a yoga session until I've gone through the whole process, because of the respect I have for the practice.
Yeah.
And I think that I almost kind of come back to, everything within the health and wellness industry has been so unnecessarily complicated. And all of these big fancy words have been used because that complicates things for people. It confuses them, that then forces them to go, oh, that person must have the answer, I've got to buy their program.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, when we look at the real thing from a health and wellness point of view, it is as simple as just operate like a human being.
Yeah.
Operate like a human being, move when you're supposed to move, get up with the sun, go down when the sun's going down, eat when you're hungry, when you're not hungry, don't eat, get your sleep in, and social connection. Like, all of those things, like that completely restores the body, the mind, and the soul, and they're all free. Again, we spoke a lot about fasting. And one of the main reasons I believe that fasting has been pushed down is because no one can make any money off it. But the weight loss industry is quite possibly one of the biggest industries in the world, when the best way to actually lose weight, don't eat. Stop eating. Pretty simple. But now you've got, what can I sell for that? Like, I can't. But, so I think, again, that these things are so unnecessarily, exceedingly complicated. And that's done to confuse people, because by confusing people, then they then feel that someone else must have their answer and I need to buy that thing. And it's a real shame.
Fully agree. I also see the wellness industry being split between people that talk a lot about the problem or potential problems, or any kind of alternative approach, where the algorithm, it seems to me that there's people talking about trails in the sky, and there's people talking about things being sprayed on food, but not giving people any kind of solution, and almost spreading more fear in doing so, which then increases cortisol, and off we go. We're in that cycle. And for me, I feel there's this fine line between wanting to help but actually contradicting yourself and doing the opposite.
Yeah, and this, I've been running my business for a long time. I'm a decade in, and I've had to become a student of marketing, and I've had to become a student of selling. And the way that you market and sell and influence someone to buy is to label a problem. So if you can, as a marketer, if you can explain a problem that someone is experiencing better than they can explain it themselves, you have what's known as a customer. So what happens is that on social media, so many people will be just solely, so in marketing, it's called problem awareness. So you have different stages of a customer, and someone will be, if you look at like what a lot of people in the social media game have done, especially in the fitness game, fitness influencers have become exceptionally good marketers and terrible coaches. So the problem is that they're on social media, and because they've become really good students of marketing, they've then been able to label the problems exceedingly well, which then influence people to then go to them. But then they go and experience a really inferior product, because the person in the fitness industry has spent more time learning how to make money as opposed to learning how to change a life. And then what happens is someone then goes into that program, gets no support, no accountability, really, really average advice, and then goes, coaching obviously doesn't work for me and I'm on my own here, and maybe I'm destined to never have success with my health and fitness. So I think that, again, me and Laura were talking about this in terms of the personal development industry. It's become so capitalized. And again, I also, though, am a huge believer that you have to pay for a service. So when it comes to people working with me, they have to pay to work with me. And the reason for that is that they're not purchasing my service, they're paying for their own accountability. How many times have we tried to, make a shift and make a change without any form of finance? Like, we haven't. People have paid good money to be here, and as a result, they've shown up.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of them has shown up. They've done the work because they've paid for it.
Yeah. And how much inspiration have you taken? Because I know my answer, but have you personally taken from seeing the level of commitment that these people here at this shift retreat with Ollie have put in for themselves?
Yeah, exactly that. And it's, I think it's exactly the conversation I was having earlier with Zach, who runs this place, where so many people are just words. So many people are just words. And I'm a big believer that you vote with your wallet. That whatever you spend your money on, shows me where your priorities are. And there's so many people who have not just spent money on a ticket to be here, but also traveled, but also they've taken the most valuable resource which we have available, which is their time. And they've come here to learn from others who have got expertise in certain areas where they're lacking. They have the humility to open themselves up and go right, someone else has the answer that I need to the problem that I'm currently experiencing. I'm going to put myself in that environment. And again, that really kind of, I don't like saying the word restores my faith in humanity, but I think that there's so many people who have got amazing stories to share, amazing resources to help other people, and being able to be centered around guys like yourself, guys like Ollie, Zach, Simon, Laura, Georgia, to be around those people, to then get the tools to then go and take the message to the world is amazing. And I think the thing that I absolutely love around being in an environment like this, it's very similar to when I went on an expedition with Wim Hof. I've been to loads of events. I've been to a lot in the US. I've traveled across the world to go to these places. And there's been so many events that have been great, but I've always sensed an ulterior motive of what's the next program they're selling me on to. Now, a really interesting thing was when I spent a week in Sweden with Wim, and the feedback that I gave to my partner Alice was, what a guy. The whole time, the only energy I got from this bloke was he went through the darkest moment in his life, figured out a set of tools that helped him overcome it. And his birthday, his 67th birthday, I'm on a frozen lake with Wim Hof. And the biggest thing that I can see with this bloke is he's in the freezing cold water with a massive smile on his face, not because he's got people who've paid to be there, but because he's got people using his method and seeing these people make a change. And that was so authentic. And I almost kind of come back to what I've got from yourself. I can see that you have just such an energy of service and helping other people. I come back to Ollie. There is no ulterior motive. And I almost kind of look at with myself. One of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but he also wrote a book called Outwitting the Devil in 1938. And it was really interesting because he was completely reduced to fear, anxiety, and borderline poverty. And he was the biggest guy in the personal development space at the time. And I remember him him saying within the book, he went on this walk, he'd been paralyzed by fear and doubt for a whole year and just felt like an absolute fraud because he's there going on the circuit telling people that you can achieve your dreams, you can overcome fear, doubt, and anxiety, and you can achieve whatever you want. I remember him saying in his book that he went for a walk and he's right, I'm going for this walk and I'm just going to snap out of this paralysis of fear by the time that I finish. And he went on this walk and it got about 8 hours in and he eventually had this thought, which was, Napoleon, you've been reduced to fear, doubt, and anxiety. And now you're relieved of that because now you can legitimately speak from your own experience as to what it's like to actually experience fear, doubt, and anxiety. And now it is your job to get yourself out of it and you can test your legitimate philosophy. And I almost kind of look at it with myself that the reason why I care so much and I have such a protection for my philosophy from a health and fitness point of view is because it's the thing that got me out of the hole. That during the most challenging and difficult time of my life, and my partner will say the same thing, the thing that helped me through it was operating like a human, was reaching out to the people that genuinely care about me, who aren't around me for what they can get from me. They're around me because they love me and I love them. It was prioritizing that right, if I'm eating anything, it's something that Mother Nature's given me. Alcohol doesn't even enter into my life. I'm prioritizing my sleep. I'm meditating. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing cold water. And that's incredibly precious to me because it got me out of a rut. And I think about what I love about yourself is that you experience some incredible incredible amounts of, anxiety, adversity. You've been exposed to some seriously challenging situations and you've done something about it. And off the back of that, you can speak from your own experience and share your own
Mutual
philosophy
respect.
through. Yeah.
Both done the work to get to where we are now. You look at Maslow's hierarchy,
Yeah.
we're operating up there because we're so aware of the work that you continuously have to do and choose to do for yourself so that you're able to give to others in such a beautiful way.
Yeah, and it brings me to the point as to why I brought up Napoleon Hill's book, because he then spoke about how the thing that got him out of the hole was that he said, when you're experiencing your own problems, the best thing you can do is forget about your own problems and help someone else solve theirs. And I just remember almost that, like, for me, that whenever I was feeling that doubt, that anxiety, that I'm an absolute failure, like, I dropped my own problems, like, right, who can I help? And what it did was it made me realize I am useful. I am useful and I can help people. And I don't know what it was, but that then just took the sting out of the problem and the pain I was experiencing. And then a solution presented itself. So I think that I've always found that there's no such thing as something for nothing.
No.
And that being that, like, whenever you get something, then you have to have paid a price. It's like something like alcohol. Alcohol takes you to +2, but then rebounds you back to -2 because you've almost kind of like hacked the system and got yourself to a place and kind of cheated to get to this place of, mentality without doing the work.
Yeah.
And it's the same with all of this work. The reason why you've had such a profound transformation in your life is because you've done it properly. You've laid the foundations, and that's been a long-term process, and that has then taken you to where you want to go to. And it's the same with me, within my own challenges and difficulties in my life that I've managed to overcome. Like, I like to think I've addressed them properly.
Yeah. And was there a period of before you overcame them, you had to sit in them?
Yeah, like, I think one of the biggest challenges I experienced was during COVID. All my business was in person, and I remember, like, within a 48-hour period, I got a text from 75% of my clientele saying, like, look, one, I don't know what's going to happen in my own work situation. Two, how are we going to work? Like, I'd never done anything online. And I just got hit with the ultimate, I was completely overcome with anxiety, fear, and I had a full-on breakdown because it was my livelihood. I had no idea how I was going to pay my rent. I had no idea how I was going to just make my business work. And it wasn't even just about the money. Like, I'd put all of my life into this thing and it had just been completely broken down. I don't want to say taken away from me because that's a very victim mentality. But at the time I felt that it had been taken away from me and I had to figure out a way to alter it. And it's really interesting that forced me online. Like, and off the back of that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have the community that I have of personal trainers and coaches that I'm blessed to have in my life that I coach myself. That forced me online, but it also caused me to learn a big lesson. If I look at that during that time, my number one priority was I've got to get a grip of my mind because I can't be overcome by anxiety. And the thing that helped me, I remember Andrew Huberman saying, don't control the mind with the mind, control the mind with the body. Because the mind is too powerful to try and overcome with the mind, whereas utilizing the body to change my internal chemistry. And it's interesting because we've spoken about this a bit, that when we're looking at, like, our mood and we're looking at, like, our emotion is simply just a difference in chemistry within the body. So if you're happy, you have a high amount of serotonin flowing throughout you. If you're excited, you have a high amount of dopamine flowing through you. If you're stressed, you have a high amount of cortisol flowing through you. If you're anxious, you have a combination of cortisol and adrenaline. And knowing that has helped me more than anything from a mental health point of view, because what it's allowed me to do is emotionally detach from the feeling. So previously I would say I'm anxious. And effectively, I'm identifying with the anxiety there. Whereas the thing that's helped me has actually been able to detach from it and going, I'm simply feeling experiences of anxiety right now. I'm simply experiencing feelings of anxiety. And on a physiological level, anxiety is just adrenaline. It's just adrenaline and cortisol, which has then allowed me to go, like, okay, if I want to get out of an anxious state and I want to get into a content state, all I need to do is look at it and go, anxiety is just cortisol and adrenaline high. What's in my toolbox that lowers anxiety, lowers cortisol? The beautiful breathwork session that we did yesterday, focusing on parasympathetic breathing. that naturally decreases the cortisol, that decreases adrenaline. But then also, if I want to get myself into a content state, I want to elevate my serotonin, I go and expose myself to that big ball of fire in the sky. That then drives up serotonin. I've automatically flipped from being in an anxious state to actually I'm in a content place. So again, another thing that has really helped me, my view of nutrition, exercise has really evolved over the years. When I was an 18-year-old kid, it was just about trying to look as good as I possibly could to play sport and, be as strong as I possibly could. Whereas now it is the anchor to help me control my emotional state. And I found that my emotional state is just a change in chemistry. And we almost look at it from a nutritional point of view. All nutrition is just you're putting chemicals in the body. So again, like if I want to get into a higher level of serotonin, like I can eat foods that either generate serotonin and they're high in an amino acid called L-tryptophan that gets converted into serotonin, or I can even eat foods like a kiwi that have got a high amount of serotonin in them. So again, like knowing this and knowing that, like, right, I'm in complete control of my emotional state. I can't control things in the outside, but I can control my own emotional state because my emotional state is just chemistry, and I have tools in my toolbox to alter that chemistry. That's the ultimate power.
So that's the second occasion you reminded me of something I went to say to you earlier in the conversation, is that we all have choices. So the choice that you take when you feel that and taking action at the time means that you haven't delayed it for tomorrow. Because as we know from the presentation that you made earlier, that if we delay it till tomorrow and we go to bed anxious, then we raise our insulin, we raise our inflammation, we start that cycle. So then we've got far more work to do tomorrow. But how many people do you think do wait and feel that they've got the opportunity to, I'm going to carry on, I'm not going to do anything to address this, I'm going to go to bed full of anxiety. In fact, I'm going to make it worse by scrolling on my phone, eating some chocolate before bed, and I'm going to make everything worse.
I think you have to come to, if you speak to anyone who's gone through any form of radical transformational change, I think they will all say the same thing. They got to a point where it's like, I've had enough of this. Like, I've had enough of this. And I think that most of the time, I think, again, for myself, like there was a period within my business where, like, I would say that I was doing okay with my health and fitness, but I really wasn't looking after myself the way that I should. I was very stressed. I was very anxious. And the trigger for me was my partner, who's the most important person in my life. She said to me, "You're just someone I don't really want to be around right now." And when she said that to me, she's like, I can't be on this emotional roller coaster you're on right now. Okay. I have my own challenges in life and you're making them worse. And I'm not really enjoying spending my time with you. And that I cannot afford to lose the most important person in my life, because I'm not going to find anyone else who's going to put up with me, for one, anyway. But also, like,
how did the ego receive that information?
Do you know what's really interesting? She was right. She was right.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. But that was I think my ego dropped, and it wasn't my ego that was listening. It was subconscious being like, we are not happy right now. Like, we are not happy. We're stressed. We're anxious. And you've got some decisions to make here, but I'm not willing. I think I found that when it comes to people changing, you change for one or two reasons. Either the pain of what you're currently experiencing is too great for you to tolerate anymore, or you're face to face with the potential consequences that come with you carrying on with your action or your inaction. And for me, I was unhappy, I was anxious, but also I then ran the risk of, not even the risk, like it was legit, like she'd happily walk away from me, because she's her own person and she'd go. And I'm not willing to do that. And that caused me to then go, I've got to start looking after myself here. And I think a big thing is that, like, there's times where I lose with my health and fitness. There's times where I do lose, but I just like to think I win more than I lose now. Whereas I was losing more than I was winning. But the reason why I was losing because I wasn't trying. And the reason why I wasn't trying was because it was easy to just stay where I was at. And, even for myself, like, truthfully, being at this weekend, I don't normally get to really express myself the way that I have. And the reason why I felt so uninhibited is because I've had enough of diluting down what I believe in. And I've had enough of that. And I think that when I almost kind of look at someone to make a change, you have to come square with yourself, face to face in the mirror, of being like, what are the consequences of carrying on this way, but also what are the future consequences here? And if those consequences aren't great enough, it's hard to make a change. It is, because you don't have that leverage. But I think that you have to get really clear on like, what do you actually want in life? And I think that, yes, absolutely, you have to do it for yourself. But I found that like, it's no coincidence that the number one predictor of how long someone stays on this planet is the quality of their relationships. And the reason I feel for that, to simplify it, is if you're on your own at the end of your life, you've got no one to stick around for. And I almost look at the thing that caused me to really address my health and fitness and continues to remind me when I'm not on track is the quality of my relationships. And specifically, a big driver of that is my romantic relationship with the person who I get to share my life with. That is my reminder. And I think that, you know, you have to really get clear on like, right, you know, how do you want to show up for the people that are in your life? Because it is the people in your life that make your experiences. And I remember I went to an amazing event in Orlando. I went to Universal Studios when I was out there, and it's one of my favorite places. I'm a massive comic book nerd. The whole time, the whole thing I was thinking was, I wish my brother was with me. Same place. The only difference was this experience would be so much better if I was sharing it with that person.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're in a place where you know you want to change, but you haven't got that drive and that willpower, who else is impacted by this? Because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of people that you get to share it with. And I look at like, you know, again, even something as simple as one of my best friends has got a house in Wales. I could go to that place in Wales on my own and have a nice time, but it's not the same as going there with my bro.
It's beautiful. And it's brought something to me, which I realised when I was doing the sound frequency yesterday. And it's something that I noticed on day one when I was in the tent and just about to go to sleep, was that I was homesick. And then when I did the sound bath yesterday with Georgia, towards the end of the session, I went to this place, which is the place I go to whenever I'm in that stillness, where it's the same place I've made all of the changes, or the realisation that have led to the changes over the last 2 years. So initially I thought, we're not here again. I don't want to make changes. And then as I explored what was coming to me, it was nothing but pure gratitude, love, and appreciation for my loved ones, and how happy, content, and how for the first time I feel like I don't have to make any changes. Everything is divine and right on time, which is such a beautiful, freeing moment, because I still have the pursuit of where I'm heading without the desire for any of the fundamental things in my life, being the relationships and the connections that I'm making, to change. So they will remain the same.
What's been the main driver for that, do you feel?
The driver for
you wanting to get to this place?
Because I realised my potential. I realised, exactly as you were saying, that our hardest times can be our greatest gift. And the level of darkness I experienced and came out the other side of through nature has given me a gift that I know is my duty to enable others to receive.
And what have been the most important practices for you that have helped you through those challenging times?
Sea swimming. Yeah, sea swimming is the one and only, because it's the ultimate. It's a combination of the ice bath with the nature, with the views, with the serenity, with the humility of the ocean will do what the ocean wants to do today. I'm not in control of this situation. If a wave wants to hit me, then I'll let it, because I don't have any choice in this situation. And it's a beautiful feeling. And for 2 years, I forced myself to get out of bed and go swim, whatever the weather condition, whatever the time of year, in a pair of shorts, because I knew that was the work that I needed to do to get to the person that I am today.
And who is that person?
It's just me.
Yeah.
It's the purest version of me I've ever known. And it takes me back to being a kid, when I would watch TV programs and cry because animals were dying, because I had so much empathy for others. But through my surroundings and that reluctance I had to be myself because of the fear of judgment of others, I squashed it down and suppressed it and forgot. But then through the breath work and the practices and my reconnection with my own spirituality and nature, I've remembered. And I feel that the more we can spread that out to others, the more we can collectively help each other to grow together.
Yeah, and I think that being in an environment like this, around people like this, is the way that you have those things opened to you. Like, you know, again, some of the best experiences that, you know, I've had going through that, you know, through the challenging times, have been around other people going through a challenging time and being opened up to this is actually just a normal thing that we do, you know. And when you're around people, like, you know, think about how many people here haven't eaten. Either they've carried on and done like a 24-hour fast, or they've, you know, just done like, you know, a fast through to lunchtime. It's a normal practice. And I think that a challenge can be that in normal society, if you're surrounded by the same people, you're going to naturally be getting the same thing because they're just doing the same actions. Whereas if you want to go and change your life, you've got to change your environment because you're exposed to new people who operate in a different way with a different normal. And we have to change our normal, because if we just keep repeating the same things over and over again by being in the same environment, then we're just going to keep getting what we've always got. Whereas we have to force ourselves, and it can be really scary going into a new environment because we have to expose ourselves to others. You know, we all have that deep innate fear of judgment, that fear of criticism, and it takes real substance and character to, you know, just step into a room like this. But when you step into a room like this and you're around other people, you start to see how other people are operating, and you either have people at the same level as you either have people who are a little bit earlier on in their journey than you are, or a little bit further ahead than you with your journey. And that's perfect, because you have people that you can learn from who are ahead of you, people that you can share the same experience with, or people that you can actually relay back your experiences with and help off the back of that. And I personally think that the only way that you can really, you know, go and expose yourself is by exposing yourself to new lines of thought, new people who have gone through the similar sort of challenges. And that comes with humility. And that humility is beautiful, because it also means that, like, for me, what I've learned, that humility of getting myself out there and exposing myself to new people has also meant for me that no matter what challenge or difficulty I ever experience in my life, there is someone else who has experienced that, got through it, and I can learn from them, and I can learn from them and also share that experience, and I'm not alone. But it's hard. Like, it is hard to go and find those rooms. Like, you know, I'm incredibly blessed that, you know, that this opportunity has presented itself, and I've been able to share, you know, this experience with yourself. With Ollie, I know both me and my partner, you know, we've both, like, that's been the main thing of just being able to have this experience.
I think that's quite a unique thing for both of us as well, because this is my first time here in this capacity as well. So what a beautiful thing to experience together, because if you'd have been doing this for 10 years, then to you it's default. To me, on the other flip side, it's default if I've been doing this for 10 years. So for two guys on a journey, having all the same practices with a shared energy for the first time, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, I think I come back to that, like, you know, life's supposed to be shared. You know, it is. And I come back to, you know, I look at over the last, probably like the last 10 years, really, so many more people have become more anxious, depressed, and ill, like whether that's physically or mentally. And it's strange because we're more connected than ever, but we're not more connected. We're just more accessible. And it's actually become harder and harder to connect with people, which is bizarre in the life that we live. But that's also then that pain has forced people to want to seek out coming to places like this and seek out that connection. You know, me and my partner, you know, we're going to Southeast Asia. We just booked a one-way ticket because we want to go to a new environment to meet new people, and with that, like that shared experience of connection, it is the most important pillar of our health and fitness. That connection, and, you know, knowing that, like, whenever I'm going through something, I've got a bro on my side who, like, can pull me through it. Knowing that I've got a partner who, you know, is there for me, and knowing I've got a tribe, like, that's the thing that pulls you through the difficult times. But also, what's the point in having success if you've got no one to share it with? So then when you're, you know, like, again, both of us are sharing in an immense amount of joy of the fact that we've taken something that is really important to us, had the opportunity to share that, and then have people come up to us. It's like, you know, I've had guys who went on Ollie's Mirror Reset in January. Like, you know, I put a few things together within that, and I've had them going, like, you know, it's August, like, I'm still doing what you told me to do. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, yeah, you know, I had a cardiovascular condition, heart attack, and, you know, I'm 2 stone lighter. I'm happy. I'm not anxious. And I'm like, that is amazing. Like, and that is just the ultimate gift that I can get from it, because, you know, this isn't just a fascination. It's like, you know, it has meaning and it has purpose, but that comes to sharing it.
Beautiful. feedback I had yesterday from a guy that did the breath work who has spent a fortune trying to fix his back issues was that as he completely relaxed towards the end of the session, his back clicked twice and it's changed his life. We're back on after our iPad overheated.
Just
So
not
obstacle is the way.
It is.
So we're going to wrap this up. There was one place I wanted to go back to though, and you were talking about back in COVID when you were forced online, and in hindsight, what you saw at the time as being bad inherently turned into good. So everything is maybe. You can add maybe onto everything. But it was the impact that you're now able to make on a larger scale. So prior to COVID, when you were coaching people in person, how many clients did you have?
Oh, I'd probably be operating at about 20 at a time.
Yeah. And now that you're passing on your practices to other trainers who have clients themselves, now how many people would you predict that you impact?
Well, that's the thing.
Unmeasurable.
Because if I have 100 personal trainers who go through my program with an average of just 20 clients themselves, that's 2,000 people. Then you look at who they pass on to with their family, with their friends. Then I look at through my own podcast, through my social media channels. Even today, I've built this relationship with Ollie has come through an online platform that I wouldn't have had the courage to, be able to deliver sessions online if I hadn't have been forced on there. So, and look, I also think it's very easy to say that those adversities are going to bring you an opportunity further down the line. But when you're in the thick of it, it doesn't feel that way. But that's when I always then take the advice I got from Ollie's book, Breakpoint, when I first opened it up. He says, sometimes when things get really tough, it literally just boils down to putting one foot in front of the other. And when things are challenging, the only thing you can do is just focus on that next step. But that next step leads to another one and another one and another one. So just do something. And I remember that was the thing when it came to COVID. Like I had to figure out a way to go like, right, okay, you got two choices here. Either you go and get a job, and that just was not an option for me. I don't know why.
She's just borrowing them. I thought I couldn't borrow them. I was like,
They're quite similar, aren't
Right.
they?
Yeah, I was gonna say they look the same.
She's nicked your glasses.
Yeah, is that what you thought?
no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember we were talking.
There we go, wrong.
Yeah, right.
Dodgy.
I thought you were.
It's totally not. I found them on the side. I was like,
Okay. Get a new client from? No idea. But I just made a decision that I'm like, right, no, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And it was really interesting because then one of my family friends reached out, and the way that my online journey happened was that she reached out and she goes, I work for a charity called the Active Wellbeing Society. And basically we have funding where for people in underprivileged areas who struggle financially, we want to make exercise, health and fitness accessible. Would you do some online cooking demonstrations? And I'd never done an online cooking session ever before. I had no idea to do it, but I was like, well, if you're genuinely committed to doing this, go and do it. And genuinely, it was the point, we were all fully in lockdown and it was just me and my brother living in a flat together. And he literally just got his iPhone up and we were just streaming into a Facebook group where I was just cooking whatever I was eating that was healthy and in line with optimal principles, but for under £2. And then that started to we were streaming to 5,000 people. And I didn't get I didn't get paid an incredible amount of money for it. It just paid me enough to be able to pay my bills. But then I started to realize that I can deliver this online. I don't fully know how it's going to work, but I can. And then that then started to come to like, right, okay, now how can I figure out how to deliver my service this way? And then it snowballed. And I do believe that like when you make a committed decision that I am going that way, that the gods do help you out.
I know that to be true. Yeah, and everything you've said from the moment I've met you has resonated, it's landed. And I want to ask you, because I know that you've said about the fitness industry not necessarily being fully on board with your message in its purest version, but what would happen if you took that courage to land it? Because I believe that would be your greatest gift.
To think about the correct answer. That's such a good question.
It's a great question. It really is. And I think there's an element of fear of maybe, I think, yeah, it's a really great question. There's an element of fear of those feelings of fear of rejection naturally come to the surface. Those feelings of fear of criticism naturally come to the surface. But I think for myself, truthfully, I think the problem is like I am just done with almost kind of muzzling it almost.
I feel it.
So
Yeah.
I think that it's more probably a case of like, you know, you've got a decision here to make to really go and share this, because I felt so liberated to be able to just fully kind of speak what I truly believe, you know, from my own experience and where I feel things through. And I feel that I would be doing not only myself a disservice, but also others a disservice. So I think that like another thing that I have learned, like one of my favorite books is The Alchemist. And there's a part where he basically has to make the decision, like, are you going to go on this journey or not? And it's a young boy who's a shepherd. And he said something where he goes, I can always go back to my sheep.
Yeah.
I can always go back to my
Mate,
sheep.
so if I was in the fitness industry and you step forward as my leader, I would follow you. So you will never know who is there waiting for you to step forward as their leader, because I believe the fitness industry is ready for your message.
I appreciate that, mate.
Yeah.
And I feel humbled that someone like yourself has shared that. So
Let's wrap this up.
Thank you,
Brother,
mate.
thank you so much.
I appreciate
I
it
look
so
forward
much.
to
Thank you.
seeing how this develops, because it's been an honour and a blessing to meet you.
Oh, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, bro.